let's get more on this now. Joining us is Liberal Senator Alex Antic. Nice to have you on the show, Senator. Thanks for joining us. We want to start with net zero. As we just mentioned, moderate Andrew Bragg has threatened to quit should the party pull out of Paris. He also said the Liberal Party cannot take out a fatwa on the words net zero. What do you make of his comments and his threat to leave?
Well, I mean, I've just sort of seen them recently, and it's a matter for Andrew, obviously. I mean, you know, he and I like Andrew a lot, by the way, I should say. I think he's a very capable bloke, but we would see the world very differently, I think, on this issue. And I'm in my position on net zero, and I would say the broader position of emissions and climate hasn't changed ever. And it didn't change in 2021 when the Morrison government brought it in. I think I was one of a handful that opposed it then, and I oppose it now. I think it's absolute madness. And I spoke in the chamber last week about what it means to be Australia first, and there were a range of topics there, but the most topical one of which is energy policy. This is crippling our country for no particular reason. I think you summed it up very well. James summed it up as well in the earlier piece. 1% of the world's emissions. Our main trading partners in the United States and China are emitting like there is no tomorrow, and yet for some reason we are hamstringing ourselves and deindustrialising. There is no good reason for this. And we, as a starting point, as a very, very, very low bar and low hanging fruit, we should be simply walking away from the concept of net zero and then talking about the rest of it after that, I would say.
Alex, the real question here is then if you are going to scrap net zero, let's just say you are running the show, what is the alternative? If the coalition says no more net zero, what do you think have to be the core foundations of an alternative energy policy?
Well, that's a very simple answer to that. The cheapest possible power we can get for this country. If that's coal, so be it. If it's gas, so be it. If it's a combination of gas, coal and nuclear, so be it, so be it, so be it. The reality here is we are not going to change the world from Australia from an emissions point of view. And in fact, as you rightly point out, we are simply shipping our coal and gas overseas so they can be emitted in a different part of the world, which makes no sense at all. And if the Labor government were fair dinkum about it, they would just say, all right, let's stop trading in these terrible products that cause so much grief. My view would be we simply create the cheapest power in the world to allow us to get back to some form of manufacturing. Some sort of sovereign risk issue could be eliminated out of this as well. We are sitting ducks here in this country, by the way. That's why the subs are so important, because our best chance at defending ourselves is simply breaking a blockade. We don't make anything. We don't make really pharmaceuticals. We don't make weapons. We don't make anything in this country, and the nub of it is our energy policy at the moment, amongst a range of other issues as well. So that's what I would do, but I don't expect that to be happening anytime soon.
No, that's it. And you make a really good point there, because we've invited the market to be flooded with solar panels, with fridges, with hot water systems, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, in the case of solar panels, millions of units, and 90% of them are coming from China. And there's two Australian solar panel manufacturers, they're both based in Adelaide, who are doing their best, but, you know, they're being overrun by 15 to 20 Chinese-made goods. So it's a very tough market. And I would have thought a lot more people would get on this journey, Alex, if we said, look, we're going in this direction, we're going to reduce emissions, and by the way, it is Australian-made first. I want to ask you, though, how do you convince more young people who have learnt through school and through universities and maybe through the internet that Australia is causing bushfires and all that sort of thing? I mean, how do you educate and try and convince those young voters who have been deciding elections now that we don't need to be going so aggressively in this way?
Yeah, I mean, that's the million-dollar question. I mean, in many ways, this is like letting a fish out on a fishing reel. We've let it go out about 2,500 kilometres out onto the ocean, and the process of reeling it back in is very, very difficult, because we've allowed children to be lied to about the climate issue and the climate hysteria. And that starts way before any of us could imagine. I mean, that goes back 20, 30 years. Certainly at school, those kids have been coming through. And I think this is my great criticism of the right of politics of all shapes and models, is you can't expect kids to not be listening to the sweet siren song of the left. I mean, you look at what happened in New York last week with the election of the new mayor there, who's running around saying, I'm going to hand out free stuff. The same applies here. We just simply haven't sold a vision to young people, a vision of hope and prosperity. You start off, kids now saying we've got to get $1 million in our pocket before we can afford a very start-up house. And then on top of that, all the bills we've got. Young men tell me that they simply are afraid to ask young women out because they can't afford the meal to take them out anymore. the right has to take responsibility for this because we expect Labor and the Greens to Labor and the Greens, but we don't expect the right to acquiesce in some form of polyester version of the left. And that is where the blame lies over the last 20 years, frankly.
No, look, I think that's a really fair point. We mentioned this earlier. You're part of course, the South Australian Liberal Party, where more than 200 members have quit this week in protest over what they say is Susan Lee's weak leadership and a failure to abandon net zero. Do you back her as leader?
Well, look, I mean, I say from the outset, and I've said it before, I voted for Angus, but she is the current leader of the Liberal Party, and the party room backs her. And I would say the people that have said there are no rumblings and no movement on her are right. There are none. But I will say we do have some challenges ahead of us. I mean, we are at the moment polling at 24%. We've got to be absolutely realistic about this. We're polling at 24%. And we're losing ground to One Nation and the minor conservative parties at the rate of knots. In SA, they're said to be polling at about 15%, but it's 14% nationally, according to the last news poll. So we have some problems. We have some very, very severe problems, which I say can be fixed by leadership, by simply adopting the Liberal Party's core values, which are freedom of enterprise, all the things we always talk about, freedom of speech, and tackling those issues. So, no, I mean, that is the point. At some point, leadership has to change. Now, whether it's the personnel or it's the message, I'm happy with either. I really am. I just want the Liberal Party to go back to its core values of being the Liberal Party. Let's hope Wednesday is the start of that. I will say I am mildly frustrated about having to go back to Canberra again to discuss this issue when we could have done it 2 weeks ago. But let's get it done, let's sort it out, and let's move forward.
Can I just to pick you up on that point, because you said a lot of this comes down to leadership then, but can you move forward with Susan Lee as leader?
Yeah, of course. I mean, people don't, I think we have to understand, people don't care as much about the leader as we think they do. What they care about is the policy positions. People are hurting out there. And the reality is that Susan can do a very good job of this. I think she's very capable and I think she will do a good job, but we have to get the policy setting right. And the criticism, therefore, is that this leadership team have to get on with it now. We have to start throwing some punches because we are running out of time, and that's got to start as of Wednesday afternoon.
All right, well, look, huge week ahead. We'll look forward to seeing all outcomes on the table. Senator Alex Antic, nice to have you on. Thanks very much for joining us this evening.